Matthew Marsden's mother had a fondness for nicknaming her 9 children, and Matthew was affectionately called Mac. He was born in a log house at the confluence of Sandy Creek and Metz Branch in Jefferson County, Missouri, near the southern border of St. Louis County. This cabin was constructed by Mac's father, Samuel Marsden, who was married to Mary Meade Johnston. Samuel later built a large house about a mile north at the head of Metz Branch, and the family relocated there. During this period, Samuel gained recognition for surveying and graveling LeMay Ferry Road, the main route to St. Louis. He also served as commissioner for the long, red, barn-like covered bridge that spanned Sandy Creek, now a central feature of a state historic site and park. Mac was 17 years old when his mother passed away. Little is known about his life during his 20s, but around 1878 he joined the many men heading to the Black Hills of Dakota in search of gold. Though he had some success, a dispute over a shared claim resulted in a man being shot dead. The incident led the peace-loving Mac to return to Missouri. Approximately a year after returning to Jefferson County, Mac married his childhood sweetheart, Emma Jean Hensley. She was the daughter of Leander Hensley and Cynthia Ann Williams Hensley, a family known for its evangelists and preachers. They founded the enduring Sandy Baptist Church, which has continued into the 21st century. In 1879, Mac and Emma Jean welcomed their only child, Samuel Matthew Marsden. Mac's family had a background in lead and tin mining in England before immigrating to America, where they found success mining at Galena, Illinois, a town named for its lead ore. His grandparents moved to Missouri around 1840, following the discovery of lead deposits there. While Mac's father, Samuel, focused on mining and engineering in Jefferson County, Mac opted for a different path. He became a livestock trader specializing in hogs, cattle, and horses. He bought these animals from local farmers and drove them to markets along the Mississippi River near St. Louis. In the fall of 1881, Mac first found himself entangled in a criminal investigation when Anson Vale, a reclusive farmer, was discovered dead in his cabin after it was consumed by fire. Despite the absence of evidence pointing to foul play, the sheriff suspected Vale had been murdered. Mac admitted to visiting Vale on business the evening he died. He was arrested for the crime in 1882, stood trial, and was acquitted due to insufficient evidence. Beginning in 1881, Jefferson County experienced a spat of livestock thefts, particularly involving hogs. The sheriff questioned Mac about these thefts, as well as the murder of prominent merchant Joseph Yeager in Antonia. The local newspaper, The Democrat, repeatedly accused Mac of various crimes, labeled him as the leader of a gang of thieves, and branded him a desperado. A local vigilante committee even attempted to lynch him. However, throughout this period, no evidence or witnesses connected Mac to any crimes. In the spring of 1883, Mac was arrested after selling some stolen hogs to a butcher in Carondelet. Although he had a bill of sale to prove the legitimacy of the transaction, he and several others were indicted for livestock theft. As their trial approached, all the accused were out on bond. One of the men agreed to testify against Mac, intending to portray him as the leader of a gang. Mac, in turn, planned to provide testimony against the accuser. On August 29, 1883, Mac was returning from a livestock sale in St. Louis with his brother-in-law and constant companion, Allen Hensley. They were traveling along LeMay Ferry Road in Mac's wagon when a group of men suddenly appeared on the road. One of them fired a shotgun, striking Mac in the head and torso, killing him instantly. Hensley was injured by a second blast, but the horse bolted with the wagon, carrying him to safety in the nearby town of Antonia. Hensley survived for 2 days and, while on his deathbed, identified the men responsible for the attack on him and Mac. The accused were finally brought to trial in 1886, but were acquitted. Fearing retribution, the men all fled the state, leaving the murders of Mac Marsden and Allen Hensley unresolved. John Middleton Clayton was born on a farm in Bethel Township, Pennsylvania, to John and Ann Glover Clayton. His family traced their roots to early Quaker settlers in Pennsylvania. Clayton's ancestor, William Clayton, immigrated from Chichester, England, and was a personal friend of William Penn. He served as one of the 9 justices at the Upland Court in 1681 and was a member of Penn's council. At birth, Clayton was named John Tyler Clayton by his father, a staunch Whig Party supporter. However, following the death of President William Henry Harrison and what his father perceived as John Tyler's treacherous abandonment of the party, Clayton was renamed John Middleton Clayton. During the Civil War, Clayton served as a colonel in the Army of the Potomac, participating in several Eastern campaigns. In 1861, he and his family relocated to Arkansas, where he managed a plantation owned by his older brother, Powell Clayton, who would become the governor of Arkansas the following year. In 1871, Clayton was elected to the Arkansas House of Representatives, representing Jefferson County. 2 years later, he served in the Arkansas Senate, representing Jefferson, Bradley, Grant, and Lincoln counties, and upheld the position of Speaker of the Senate pro tempore for part of his term. He was also a member of the inaugural Board of Trustees for the Arkansas Industrial University, now the University of Arkansas, when it was chartered in 1871. In 1873, Clayton played a key role in securing the establishment of Branch Normal College in Pine Bluff, Arkansas, now known as the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff. Clayton was involved in the Brooks-Baxter War of 1874, a conflict over the contested gubernatorial election between Joseph Brooks and Elijah Baxter. As a supporter of Brooks, Clayton raised troops in Jefferson County and led them to Little Rock, Arkansas, to confront Baxter's supporters. He remained loyal to Brooks throughout the conflict, which ended when President Ulysses S. Grant recognized Baxter as the legitimate governor. After Reconstruction, Clayton continued to be active in Arkansas politics. With support from Black Republican voters, he was elected sheriff of Jefferson County in 1876 and was re-elected to 5 consecutive 2-year terms. In 1888, Clayton ran for Arkansas's 2nd Congressional District seat in the U.S. House of Representatives against incumbent Democrat Clifton R. Breckinridge. The election was marked by widespread fraud. Clayton narrowly lost by 846 votes out of more than 34,000 cast. In Conway County, a particularly egregious incident occurred when 4 masked, armed white men forcibly seized a ballot box from a predominantly black precinct, which contained a substantial number of votes for Clayton. In response, Clayton decided to contest the election and traveled to Plummerville, Arkansas to investigate. On the evening of January 29, 1889, he was fatally shot through the window of his room at a local boarding house by an unknown assailant. Following his death, Clayton was posthumously declared the winner, Breckinridge was removed from office, and the seat was declared vacant. The identity of Clayton's killer was never discovered. Belle Starr, originally named Myra M Shirley, was born on February 5, 1848, on her father's farm near Carthage, Missouri. Known to most of her family as May, she was the daughter of John Shirley, a prosperous farmer who raised wheat, corn, hogs, and horses. Despite his success, John was viewed as the black sheep of his affluent Virginia family, who had relocated to Indiana, where he experienced 2 marriages and divorces. Belle's mother, Elizabeth Hatfield Shirley, was John's 3rd wife and a distant relative to the Hatfields, famous for their family feud. In the 1860s, John Shirley sold the farm and moved the family to Carthage, purchasing a livery stable and blacksmith shop in the town square. Myra received a classical education and piano instruction, graduating from Missouri's Carthage Female Academy, a private school that her father had helped establish. During the American Civil War, Myra's older brother, John M Shirley, was an active participant in the Jasper County Bushwhackers fighting for the Confederacy. Myra was rumored to have supported her brother, possibly as a spy, though specifics remain unclear. Bud was killed by Union troops in late June 1864. Devastated by his death and the ruin of his business due to theft and destruction, John Shirley sold his property, loaded his family and belongings in 2 Conestoga wagons, and headed for Texas. They settled in Sign, a small community 10 miles southeast of Dallas, with Myra driving one of the wagons. In school, Myra was known for her irregular attendance and was perceived as rather wild by her teacher, Miss Poole. After the war, the Reed family also relocated to Texas. On November 1, 1866, Myra M Shirley married John C. Reed, as recorded in Collin County marriage records. 2 years later, she gave birth to their first child, Rosie Lee, nicknamed Pearl. Belle, known for her distinctive style, often rode side saddle in black velvet riding habit, a plumed hat, and carried 2 pistols with cartridge belts across her hips. Reed eventually turned to crime and was wanted for murder in Arkansas, prompting the family to move to California, where their second child, James Edwin, was born in 1871. Upon returning to Texas, Reed became involved with several criminal gangs. Though he initially attempted farming, he grew restless and aligned himself with the Star Clan, a Cherokee family known for whiskey, cattle, and horse theft in the Indian Territory, as well as the James and Younger gangs. In April of 1874, despite a lack of evidence, a warrant was issued for Myra's arrest in connection with a stagecoach robbery involving her husband and others. Reed was killed in August of that year in Paris, Texas, where the family had settled. Belle Starr is said to have been briefly married to Charles Younger, Cole Younger's uncle, for 3 weeks in 1878, though this claim lacks substantiation. There are also rumors that Belle's daughter, Pearl Reed, was actually Pearl Younger. In 1880, Belle married Sam Starr, a Cherokee, and settled with the Starr family in the Indian Territory. There, she became skilled in organizing and planning for rustlers, horse thieves, and bootleggers, and she helped shield them from the law. Her involvement in legal activities proved profitable, allowing her to use bribery to secure the release of her associates when they were caught. In 1882, Belle and Sam were charged with horse theft, with Deputy U.S. Marshal Lemuel Marks serving the arrest warrant. They were tried before the hanging judge, Isaac C. Parker, in Fort Smith, Arkansas, with United States Attorney W.H. Clayton prosecuting. Belle was found guilty and sentenced to 9 months at the Detroit House of Corrections in Detroit, Michigan. She earned the respect of the prison matron for her good behavior, while Sam was assigned to hard labor due to his unruly behavior. There are conflicting accounts, with some describing Belle as a model prisoner and others portraying her as loud and unruly. In 1886, Belle narrowly avoided conviction on another theft charge. However, on December 17th, Sam Starr was killed in a gunfight with law officer Frank West, abruptly ending both his life and Belle's time as an outlaw queen. Through her marriage to Sam Starr, Belle became an aunt to Henry Starr. In the final years of her life, she was associated with several men with colorful names, such as Jack Spaniard, Jim French, and Blue Duck. Eventually, she married Jim July, a relative of Sam Starr, who later became known as Jim July Starr and was about 15 years younger than Belle. In July of 1889, Eddie Reed, Belle Starr's son, was convicted of horse theft and receiving stolen property. Judge Parker sentenced him to prison in Columbus, Ohio. To raise funds for Eddie's release, Belle's daughter, Rosie Reed, also known as Pearl Starr, turned to prostitution. In 1893, she managed to secure a presidential pardon for him. After his release, Eddie became a deputy in Fort Smith. In 1895, he killed 2 outlaw brothers named Krystlynn. Tragically, Eddie was killed himself in a saloon in Claremore, Oklahoma on December 14, 1896. Pearl Starr operated several bordellos in Van Buren and Fort Smith, Arkansas, from the 1890s through World War I. On February 3, 1889, just 2 days before her 41st birthday, Belle Starr was killed while riding home from a neighbor's house. She was ambushed and, falling off her horse, was shot again to ensure she was dead. She sustained shotgun wounds to her back, neck, shoulder, and face. Legend claims she was shot with her own double-barrel shotgun. Frank Eaton offered a different account of her death. According to Eaton, Belle had been attending a dance and was last seen dancing with him. Edgar J. Watson, one of her sharecroppers, who was drunk, had asked Belle to dance, and when she refused, he followed her. When she stopped to give her horse a drink at a creek on her way home, Watson shot and killed her. Eaton claimed that Watson was tried, convicted, and hanged for the murder. Contrary accounts suggest that there were no witnesses and no one was ever convicted. Suspects include her new husband, her children, and Edgar Watson. Watson, who feared being exposed as an escaped murderer from Florida, was eventually tried for the crime, but acquitted. He was killed in 1910, and the ambush remains an unsolved case in Western lore. Another theory proposes that Belle's son, who she had allegedly beaten for mistreating her horse, might have been responsible for her death.